Hello everyone, welcome back. I am Joe Figueroa with another video on our series Anatomy of a Dance, where I break down social dancing count for count, pointing out all the dancers do. This week's video is going to be about flicks and the many different ways to use them in social dancing. But first, please share, like, and subscribe. If you'd like to support the channel, we now have a link in the description, so settle in because we're starting right now. So in one of my recent videos, I received a comment from a fan asking about flicks. Me being the type of instructor that likes to cover all aspects of dance and leave no requests unanswered, I got right on it. For this video, I decided to go with this dance with Panagiotis and Michel. Pan is always a good example for describing flicks at a base and advanced level. But first I'm going to describe the fundamental practice of flicks here in the studio. Starting off with simple flicks with a simple trajectory is a good idea. You can use this to develop understanding. For leads, understanding of how the human body moves and does not. Finding paths of least resistance. For follows, understanding that the best thing to do in these situations is relax your arms. For lack of a better term, what a lead is looking for is, well, surrender. But we'll get into that a little later. So let's start with the overhead arc. You can lead a follow into an inside turn from the left hands, both yours and theirs. Once the turn is complete, toss the follow's hand over your head like you might a ball to catch on the other side, thereby creating an arc over your head. This is probably the most common and least complicated type of flick that I can think of. Once you have caught the follow's hand in your waiting right hand, you move on into whatever movement you were thinking of. Another common type of flick is tossing the follow's hand behind their back. Here the lead can aim the arm at its length back and at an angle to indicate to the follow that the intention is for the hand to be placed on the opposite side. A third type is what amounts to a double flick, where you can begin to send the arm in one direction, and during its travel, quickly meet it to change its direction. Going from there, you have many possibilities. It wouldn't make sense to flick the hand or arm with no destination or plan ahead of time. So for you leads out there, start with these first simple examples of flicks. You can attempt the ones I'm about to break down later. No rush. 45 seconds into this dance, Pan goes into a rapid sequence of hand flicks. I'm going to let it play at regular speed and then review it. Okay, so let's go back. What Pan does here is something I've referred to a lot in these videos: conditioning. He creates the position of left hand behind the back, right hands high in front 3 times in a row, before executing the actual movement he was going for. He starts off leading her into a walk with lefts to lefts and rights to rights. Turns to his right at the end in order to face the same direction as Michel. You can see that he releases his right hand, which gives him the freedom to come full circle to face her. As he gets to that point, you can see that he has his right hand well out in front of him, clear for her to see, indicating that he is asking for her only free hand, which is her right. Michel gives her right hand, and Panagiotis brings both straight down, then raises his left hand in an almost high five kind of fashion to request her left hand. Notice his eyes, leads. He's looking at where he wants her hand to go. She is seeing everything, but definitely making eye contact. It's something as minute as where their eyes are looking that can tell a follow what is happening. In a sense, leading with a look. They made the high five contact and are now lefts high and rights low, both in the same position this sequence started in. Pan continues to turn to his right and repeats everything I just mentioned again and again and again. The entire time Michel keeps stepping, side steps throughout. She understands that what's going on above the waist is Panagiotis' responsibility. What's going on below the waist is hers. It's safe to say that by now, Michel is pretty well conditioned in this trading of high fives. That's when Panagiotis changes it up. This might be difficult to notice, but as Pan turns right that 4th time, he uses his right elbow to make contact with her extended left arm. You can see here that her arm is extended to its length, so her wrist is in contact with his elbow. Pan raises his elbow in a flicking motion to create the swing in her left arm rather than wait for her to do it herself. So now her arm is moving faster and with a force unlike the previous 3 raises. Panagiotis raises his left hand to meet hers at the high point, but he makes connection with her forearm, not her hand. It's met with force, and Pan uses that force to bounce Michel's left hand to the opposite direction and downward in an arc, so it will go behind her back and to her right. But there's more. Pan still has right hand holds and uses it to make a single right hand turn for Michelle. Follows notice that Michelle leaves her left hand behind her back, stretches all the way to her fingertips, giving Pan the opportunity to collect her left hand after the right hand turn.
Like that?
Now that's fancy!
The tip here follows is to always leave your hand where the lead put it last. There is likely a purpose to it. Pan picks up the hand and caresses or hair combs with the right. This part is really cool and I'm totally stealing it. He lets her hand go and reaches downward to collect her left arm, which is still behind her back, grabs her forearm. Once he is certain he has it, he releases his left hand hold to her left hand and swings said left hand behind his back, in a version of the arm positioning she had just a moment ago. I mean, damn! Then after connecting left to left behind his back, Pan swings his right hand out to the side and up in a circular motion to clear her head as he turns to his left. Shouldn't be hard given the height difference. And then aims her hand down low to wrap at her waistline as he is coming out of the left turn to face her. Look at how he crouches down, the bent knees, the hyperextended arm. This is what we in the biz refer to as
committing to the moment.
Sometimes intended hand connections are missed. Even the pros attempt movements that don't land as they had hoped. You can see here that first off, Michelle is having a great time. Second, she is looking closely at Panagiotis' eyes. She is 100% engaged in the dance. But even with that concentration, it's possible for communication to be missed. After this right hand turn from left hand hold, you can see Pan uses his right hand to brace Michelle at the right shoulder. All of what you are about to see is an example of the monkey mentality I've mentioned before. Once Pan has her shoulder, he can afford to let his left hand hold go, which he does to lower the left hand in hopes of catching her left hand below his right arm that is now connected to her shoulder. You can see here that he bends down a bit and opens his left hand low, but Michelle is still dizzy from all the spins and turns Pan has given her. Pan uses the hand at her shoulder to begin changing her direction into what I call a continuous turn. Once she has begun that turn, it's clear to Pan that he is not getting that hand, so he continues through the intended movement and hopes for the best. Right about here, Michelle realizes that she didn't see his request in time, and instinctually raises both hands up, but it's too late. Pan makes the most of it by picking her up for a type of 360. Notice here that he once again has his hands up and out. He has a plan to collect that left hand and he's not about to miss it again. As he leads her past him, he grabs hold of her left hand while stepping deep forward to create space. Leads her into an inside turn to check from right hand holds with an interesting ending. As Michelle emerges from that inside turn to check, Pan has his left hand well out in front to make sure that it's the first thing Michelle sees. Leads, if you are going to attempt something like this, take note. He's using all of his arm, reaching as far as he can to guarantee she sees the hand, which is right about here. Her smile says that she's impressed. Look, even this guy filming it has the same smile. So here Panagiotis has done all he needs to do in order to execute the upcoming movement. But he's going to take it a step further. Pan flicks her right hand that he's holding, aiming it into his left, which he had waiting. Then places his now free right hand to her waist to reinforce lead on both sides of her body and lead a double spin on the spot. I was in class this week and asked leads to attempt this with follows without telling the follows what was coming, just to see what the reaction would be. One of my students gave a great analogy for this. He said to me that this motion of flicking is similar to tossing a baseball into your own glove. You put a bit of an angle on it so you know it's going to land in your glove. I thought that was very astute, so I'm mentioning it here. You don't need a lot of force for any of these flicks. It's direct, but gentle. Panagiotis uses this technique to complete this movement. I'm now at that point in the video where I ask for audience participation. All you have to do is click on that like button below, and if you aren't already, subscribe to the channel. Doing both is completely free to you. It's a huge help to me, and if you like this content, you can get alerts on all my upcoming videos designed to improve anyone's Latin dance experience. So please, share, like, and subscribe. So remember earlier when I referred to Panagiotis conditioning Michelle? Well, I think that last toss of her hand forward not only gave Michelle a sense of Pan's style, but also told Pan that she is receptive to it. Look at the Copa break after. Pan picks up her wrist while placing Michelle into the T position. It's micro adjustments like this that show you how pros act and react in real time on the dance floor. The wrist hold is information for Michelle just as much as it is for Pan. He could accomplish the following with a hand at her shoulder, but there's no theater in that. Ben flicks her right arm forward, just as he did a moment ago, to create momentum as well as an interesting look. Leads the turn with his left hand to hers and raises his right as she is coming full circle to collect her right arm at the elbow, creating a kind of repeat of the T position. Then flicks the arm forward again and again and again, resulting in a triple inside turn. He's off and running into the next idea. Michelle's readjusting her glasses and literally laughing at how much fun she's having. The last thing I wanted to point out is quite extreme in the field of arm flicks, so I wouldn't attempt this without first practicing it a lot. Something like this requires dexterity, as well as understanding, and being able to use any and all points of contact to accomplish the goal. After this 540 crossbody lead, yep, 540, Panagiotis open breaks and meets Michelle in the middle with an open palm, his right, her left. He's about to do two things at the exact same time. On the floor, you can see him style with this little tap step, putting weight and emphasis on his left step. Up above, you can see that he adjusts his right hand to her left. It began as a palm-to-palm hold, but during the skip, while in mid-air mind you, he slides his hand over hers into an overhand grip. As quick an adjustment as this is, it still informs Michelle. She's also well versed in social dance language, so right away, she can tell what this means. I'm about to get microscopic with this one. The hand adjustment begins a swinging of Michelle's arm in a counterclockwise circular motion. His skip step reinforced the direction of the arm. His body and kinetic energy was moving downward toward the floor. Easier for her to feel the arm going in that direction as well. Not a rule for doing this, just helpful. He swings the hand from inward and down in an arc to outward and up. His palm is aimed downward. Note that. Once the arm begins its trajectory upward, Ben doesn't change his hand connection. He simply opens his hand up and lets her wrist rest on the top of his open hand. Once again, her arm extended to its length. He then catches her arm between his thumb and pointer finger to reestablish grip on the arm, making a consistent circle with her arm. That was the conditioning. As the arm is on its way into its second circle, reaching the bottom, Ben flicks the arm at its lowest point in the direction it was already headed. See his fingers during the release? His palm is still downward. He doesn't try to get a better grip. I always tell my leads in class, the hold you have is the best hold. Don't change your hand hold in mid-movement unless you are sure you can without losing the follow, because that's where misunderstandings take place. Moving on, Ben flicked the arm out and up. He looks straight up, we can assume because that's where he thinks it's going to end up, and to indicate to Michelle where he expects to meet the arm. But while keeping his gaze in that spot, he raises his right hand, the same hand he just created the flick with, and catches the flicked arm at the wrist. Michelle is reacting so quickly that when she sees his hand so low down, she began to drop her arm down in order to make hand-to-hand contact. Ben makes contact with her wrist and flicks the arm back in the direction it came from. But he's not done. He presses at her wrist and drops his hand down to block the arm from dropping all the way. With the same hand, people. Look, her wrist is resting on his hand once again, giving him one more opportunity to flick it upward before continuing his barrage of rapid hand manipulation. So what you can see from these examples is that, for the follows, understanding flicks is about relaxation of your arms, as well as attention to details of touch. Not necessarily what you see, but rather what you feel. For leads, from the simplest flicks to the most intricate, an understanding as to how limbs move and don't move is key. Always making the movements obvious and clearly stated. Making sure you create swing from the long axis point of the arm, all the way to its end. These are not the only tips, of course. I may have to do a part 2 on this topic down the line. But that's going to do it for me. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it was long. If you want to support the channel, there's a link in the description. You can help me to give you what you want to see if you comment, like, and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one, and hopefully very soon on the dance floor.